Hello, Rodney.
What's going on, Mr. Gary?
I saw Jim Lauer on first.
Did you?
You know who else I see?
I see him.
That's good news.
Rock and roll. John Sears is in the green room. Man, what a week, Gary.
Woo.
What a week.
It has been a week, hasn't it? Man.
It has. I mean, of course, it's hot out, and we'll talk about the hot summer nights here in a little bit. But just from the chair I'm sitting in, looking like at you, I notice you're looking this way, so you don't see what I see. But like, you just have all this room back there. You know what I mean? I look around and I don't see an engine. I don't see other parts. Where did everything go?
John says he can barely hear us. We'll sort through that.
Okay.
I sent some stuff away.
You sent some stuff away. Oh,
yeah.
does that mean you're going to get it back, or is it?
No. I had to send it down the road. The old engine went down the road today.
It went down the road, huh?
Yep. Hey, Troy. Troy, can you hear us okay?
What's up, Troy? Okay. Hey, Tony.
Tony Phillips says he can hear us okay.
Yeah.
I don't see any comments on the YouTube side again.
I don't either, but I do have a question. Do you see that question down there from Jimmy? Maybe we need to ask John.
Yeah.
So well, the question is, did anyone send John Sears some minutes for tonight? So I don't know. We'll have to see. Yeah, Larry Hunt says they sound good. Sounds good. I see that too, Gary. I don't see any comments coming up just on the YouTube side there. So.
Yeah, if any of you are watching on the YouTube side, let us know, because once again, we don't see comments on I can only see comments on my phone here.
Yeah.
Man. Wonder what that's about.
Yeah.
But I see
he's got an LS for you there, Gary.
I've got that. I don't want that. I've got it taken care of.
You have an LS already? I figured out what LS stands for.
Loser sucker. I don't know.
Oh, Limited Street.
Oh, right. Limited Street.
Yeah. Come on.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Hey, Whitney, how's it going? I see Scott Linker watching. Now, you hit me with a teaser about Scott Linker about 2 sessions back, and I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting. I know you got a fistful of photos over there that you won't unleash, and so I don't know what's going on. Like
I don't either. I wish I had something. I don't have anything. I wish I did.
Yeah. Well,
I wish I had something to surprise you with, but
holding out is what I think,
Yeah, I don't have anything. I'd like to tease a piece of something, but
yeah. Well, that's good. So did the guy come today and you finalize that deal up on your motor?
Yep. Yeah. No, there's Scott. Scott says, coming soon, boys. All right.
Oh, yes. Just right around that good time for the fall, That's when it's going to heat up.
Give us about a month for that good weather.
That's right.
Hey, Jimmy Harris, we're gonna start off with that with John.
Well, the first question is the Pizza Hut meeting.
Right. So the golf cart is outside. When I had to open the door and kick some stuff out to make room and get the engine out, I just left everything outside because I wanted to get the door back down as soon as possible to get the air conditioner back on.
Okay.
So I'll bring the stuff in later.
But the engine's gone.
It's gone. It's on its way home to its new home.
Well, yeah, going east, right?
It's going northeast. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. That was pretty weird that was pretty weird feeling just doing that, thinking there's no turning back. It's done. And, Tony says, what do we search for on YouTube? Type in Gary and Hot Rod Podcast and it'll pull up. Tony.
There you go. Yeah. I see you, Larry Hunt. We're getting ready to jump on that.
Had one of the best weekends. Yep. So it's on its way. You and I are going to take a trip up north, I think, at the end of the week.
Friday. Let's lock that in. We got to get Mark on the horn. We both are doing some deals. And awesome.
Tony said he found it. Yeah. So I've got stuff rolling in a lot of different directions, and
Right on.
long they'll kind of come together, and
Yeah.
then it'll converge at Mark's place in Salina. So
Cool. Well, like you got a block order, right?
Yep.
Got a crank order.
Crank order.
Got ordered.
Heads are in Texas. Intake and valve covers are in Australia. They'll come this way when they're ready.
I mean, what's left? Rods, pistons, camshaft. Let's go.
Rods, pistons, little bit of pieces
all your
here and
stuff
there.
for the tubes and the headers and yada yada.
Yep. I got a box full of tubing from Wolf that showed up this week.
There you go.
Aircraft. Yep.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, is Troy Aves making some moves this week? What's he doing? I thought I saw something.
He is. Let's see if John can make nitrous.
See Ron Rich watching.
Get there with man, like I woke up. Do you hear my voice is different?
You got a little cold. Got a little.
Man, I woke up with like a little head cold Friday or Saturday morning, I think.
Yeah.
So this is my sexy voice. Lock up your ladies.
Man, look out now.
Lock them up.
And probably you had to get up extra early, to work on, do the workout in the garage. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Troy says they could ship a Haltech system with intake save you.
There we go. There they go. Talking about the Haltech. Man, you got to ship your car over to Australia to get a tune-up. You know what I mean?
That's right. This is a super bummer that we can't see comments over here.
I know.
But, man, really weird.
We see him on the phone. We'll keep it rolling.
It's probably powered by Haltech tonight.
That's good.
Oh, so you mentioned Troy. Scott Linker, Holly, baby. That's right. He knows what's up.
He does.
Easy and simple.
What's up, Kurt and Shelley? Got the driveway poured this week.
Where'd you see them at? Oh. Yeah. Oh, so Troy, let's see what Troy's got here. There's Troy. Look at that. There's Larry.
Yeah.
Look at it, Larry.
Look out, Larry.
Look at that. You see who posted this picture? It was Chris Lovett.
I know, right? Troy's holding out on us. We got this little group text. Usually we send some spy photos. He ain't sending nothing. He's holding out on us. So yeah, Chris Lovett had to show us what's up.
He just snuck that right into Chris's shop.
He did. He's got September 6th. He's got to be there, next race there, Titans 10-5. So
yep. He mentioned that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So Troy's in good hands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That
their Trends is a Hemi.
Mm-hmm. That is a Hemi.
Turbo Hemi. TTH.
That is going to be a cool running car.
Yeah, it is. Very cool. Yeah, he's got it over there at the with Chris Lovett, the Wichita Dyno. I know they're doing some wiring, putting all the Haltech system in there, and then of course the final the first fire up and tune up and that sort of thing. So it's in good hands there. Chris.
Yeah, it's gonna be a cool machine.
Yeah, that's coming together.
Yep. Moving along here.
Yeah.
There's Jared Johnson teased out this. He says, "Who misses the white Riot when she was wrapped? I feel it's time to dress her up again."
Heck yeah.
What do you think of that?
It looks
Rodney?
Awesome.
So you're a solid white car, and his was too. So
So this makes me happy. And
to differentiate the two cars.
Sure. And it brings back the old school that this is, you know what I mean? And so and that's how everybody knows this car and everything. And so when I saw this, I thought that was awesome. And it just so everyone knows too, I was working with Jared last week, and I was about, I don't know if it was a day late or a dollar short. The dollar wasn't short, but I was definitely late. I was the second person that apparently called on that transmission that ended up going to Minnesota. And so I definitely was wanting that. And he played it cool. I even said, I'll come get it right now. I'll bring you the hundos. And he played it right. He's like, well, we actually got another guy that we got to make sure, he called first. So we're going to give him a day to get his ducks in a row. Of course, I'm over there. What? I can meet you in 3 hours. What are you talking about?
Let's go.
Let's go. But so anyway, good talking, Jared. The wrap looks great, and I know he's coming back with bigger and better. We talked about that a little bit. He let the wrap out, but it'll be his decision to decide the other upgrades he's going to do. We're not going to talk about that. He's watching right there, just plugged in. Bam, there you are, Jared. I see you.
Dang.
Car looks awesome.
I don't see. I'm gonna post a little. I'm doing something on the side over here. I tested a comment on our side here, and it popped up.
Yep, on the YouTube it popped up. So
yeah,
yeah, it was good talking to him this week, and he played it right. So the training went to Minnesota, and we gave him the 24 hours. So guy came and got it. I wanted it so bad too. That was a good deal.
It was everything you would have dialed in for.
I don't know if I told you, Gary. I already know I told you. I already had Marty on the call. Like, hey, I'm getting this. What do I need to build? Bam, let's get another converter coming.
Yep.
And yeah, but that's all right. One will come up.
Yep.
I'll be waiting. It was the gear set I wanted too, so that was like a perfect deal. And but that's okay. His car looks great though. And we talked offline too about those 17-inch polished wheels. I might have to write him a notarized letter to ask him for permission to get a set of wheels.
So if Jared wraps it, is it going to be similar to this, or just like it, or a little different? What
are you
might
talking about?
The wrap?
Yeah.
Yep.
This is it.
Yeah, that's the old wrap.
Oh, are you saying that there's going to be a new wrap coming?
Well, that's what I'm asking. Will it look the same, or will he change it up a little bit?
Ooh, I like where you're at there.
Yeah, was he gonna? What's he thinking?
Man,
yeah. What are you thinking, Jared?
I got it now. I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have to watch the comments to see what he says there.
Right on.
This weekend was Hot Summer Nights.
Hot
summer can, and it for sure was hot.
That race didn't.
Here's Jared. Jared says, I thought about bringing that wrap back, but with new sponsors, it will probably change a little bit.
There you go. It's like you knew. Do you have a camera over there at his place?
I just remember that this is what it used to look like.
Yeah.
Shelley, Kurt, depends on where the money comes from. Well,
there you go.
You know.
They answered that one.
Very
cool.
So this is something kind of funny and cool that happened at the Hot Summer Nights. Jake Mason, Hot Summer Nights.
I got a question.
Yes.
Got a question. Caller. Got a question, caller.
Yes, caller. Houston, hello.
Is the picture on the left upside down, or is the picture on the right upside down?
I'm not sure. It gives me a headache looking at it.
The picture on the right's upside down. Was that on purpose?
I can't tell you.
We'll have to ask Jake Mason.
What's going on
there? So what's going on here, Gary? What's this about?
So Jake says word around town is Adam Phillips has been beating up on all of the local guys. Not anymore, he says. This is my official call out for the TNS team for this Friday at Hot Summer Nights. Second round of qualifying under the lights. Winner gets to pie the other driver in the face. Ooh. On the starting line in front of the fans immediately following the run. Come on, Adam. Let's give these fans something to remember.
I love it.
Oh, and okay, so I got a video.
All right, let's see it.
Let's go play the video of the race, and here it is.
Okay, let's see it. Good race.
Adam turns on the light.
He did. It looked like that he left before the blue car did. It looked like to me. Is that what you saw?
Didn't Tony say he was 001 on the tree?
001 is what I heard. Ooh, that's getting it. All right. So what? So he won that race. That was Q2, right?
Yep.
Little grudge there.
Yep.
And then what happened?
And then this happened. Ready? Here's a video.
Oh my goodness,
dude, that's
that
awesome.
was awesome. That was awesome. That was good stuff right there. They didn't have a towel ready or nothing, you know. He just like just smacked it right there. Man, that was awesome.
That's something they should make a regular. Like,
heck yeah.
A couple of guys have to come forward and volunteer to do this and make a call out and do that at every event or I don't know.
I'll nominate you and Troy Hayes right now. Just you guys do it. There you go. That's just awesome stuff. Good job, Gary.
What's the stipulations of this?
I don't know. You guys already had the bet going, remember?
Well, I done settled up my bet.
Yeah, no, that's good fun, man. I see Craven Moore watching as well, man. That's awesome.
Hey, Craven.
Man, I think they had a nice feast too. Did we not see some sort of layout there?
Yeah, and here's a good still of the to the face.
Yeah. So who brought the pie? I wonder. You know what I mean? It's like,
right.
Get it off up and everything. Oh, that's awesome. That like say,
Tony,
that's good fun.
Tony probably has some good info on the ingredients of the pie.
Yeah, what is that? Pumpkin? What is that?
I don't know. Yep,
awesome.
They had some. This was Friday night. Robert Beasley says, "Shout out to Jake and Justin, Jake Mason and Justin Heckman, and their crews for the food and beverages last night. Take me back to the Mako potluck days."
There you go.
And this is what it was: a table full of like Cajun Boil. I wish we'd have known they was going to do this. We'd have just went down to eat.
Yeah, that would be perfect right there just to go.
Let's just go to eat.
Watch that pass, watch the pie in the face, grab some dinner, and
Tony,
be done. That was it.
Tony says it was whipped cream.
Whipped cream. There we go. Yeah, man, look at that.
Yeah, that looks delicious.
Yeah,
we just show up to eat.
Just come on,
and have pie for dessert.
There you go. That's a great community right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Couple racers stepping up and like, hey, let's have some fun. Let's have some food.
Yeah, they invited everybody. You know, crew people, media, everybody.
Yeah. No, that's great. So, how'd the race end up? How do we do there?
We got Todd Bennett here real quick. Hot Summer Nights. Beasley posted this. Did we mention that Todd Bennett reset the Mocan Dragway door slammer record last night in the finals with a 384? Great car, great guys, and they put on a show. Congrats to Todd Bennett and his crew on their win.
Dang,
that's awesome.
Fine.
They need to bring that car to Arc City at the next Heads Up race in September, right?
Yep, 28.
What's the big tire track record? It's Sandlin like a 380 something in it. Is it about there?
I think it's 89 or an 86 or something like that.
Yeah, that's right there, man.
Yeah. Well, and you know, usually when someone sets a track record, I think Brandon has like a little bell that goes off in his house, and so he's got to run and reset it. You know,
it's like the bat sign.
Yeah, exactly.
Got to go. Come on, Chad. We got to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Batman and Robin.
Yeah. Is that a Pro Charger deal, Gary, on that Corvette?
I think it is.
I think you're right.
That thing's super fast, man.
Super nice. I remember seeing that at Texas last year.
Yep. And it was at Tulsa a couple years ago too when we was there.
Yeah, it was. That's exactly right.
The small tire deal. This is pretty important. Justin wins King of Small. Justin Heckman wins King of Small Tire with a 417 to Devin Brown's. It's a car in my driveway. To Devin Brown's 418, the fastest side-by-side small tire race at Mocan Dragway.
Wow.
Fast, man.
I wanna know the split too, because you know, a 17 to an 18, you know, did Justin leave first? Did Brown leave first? is there enough there? I'd like to know the split on the big end if anybody has that. That's just side-by-side action.
Kurt says it is a Pro Charger and it's a Hemi. Todd Bennett's car.
Yeah, Corvette. Very cool.
Yep. Justin Heckman winner's circle picture. Hot Summer Nights was a banger this year. Out of all the races we race, this race always means the most to any of us out there. Getting that crown is the best feeling in the world. I got crown.
Oh.
Hey, and John heard a lot of guys talk about how bad they want that crown each year.
Yeah.
So, pretty prestigious deal. That
it is. It's a big deal. And if I remember right, I think Craven Moore announced at the last show that he was going for the crown. I remember.
Everybody wants that crown.
He announced it. The crown's a big deal.
Yep. What a finals. I wish every finals was that tight. That was a drag race. We reset the track ET and mile per hour record, and we got the win. Man.
Got the double with the muscles. Nice.
Another winner circle picture. This is the Cho Scarlet Camaro.
Yeah.
Not real sure what class this was, but obviously they won something, but could not see. And maybe somebody watching, maybe Tony or somebody knows, but there they are in the winner circle picture. So,
you think they had an 8.5 class?
I don't know.
Maybe a second chance race?
Maybe. I don't know. I didn't see anything about it. I kind of ran out of time to snoop for some more info.
Yeah. We'll get somebody. Tony just answered it.
Okay. There it is. Tony says second chance. Very good. Congrats to the show crew and team and race car. Very good. I got one more thing to put up here before we get to John.
All right. John's ready.
This is the list of 18 cars in that small tire deal. 18. Everybody that knows all of these people, they need to come to Arc City at the end of September 27th and 28th. It's going to pay big. Harper will get with us and make a Facebook post with more info on that heads up race and what it's going to pay, but it's going to be a great, the weather should be good. It's going to be a great race at Arc City, 27th and 28th of September. 18 of these cars.
Being serious for a second, it's 5,000 and up, isn't it not?
He's got 5,000 locked. He wants it to be more.
Yeah, I thought he wanted to be 75, but I know it's 5,000 right now.
Yeah, I think he wants it more than that yet too, but he hasn't got that locked. But 5,000 is locked, and he wants it to be more. So there was a couple things that needed to fall in line to get it up, but it seemed like he was confident that it would happen. But surely sometime, in the coming short weeks, hopefully he'll have some info that we can put out.
Yeah, definitely. We'll get him back on the show and let him talk about it, and maybe we can reset Devin Brown's record, right?
Man, maybe them two guys going 17 and 18 down there.
Yeah,
golly.
I think. I mean, being serious for a second, didn't Brown go in 18 at Arc City as well?
16.
16. He went 16. I knew it was a team. Yeah, and then Craven's been a 10.
Yeah.
Webb's been a 17 or 18.
Yeah.
Foreman's been a teen something, right? Seriously. Yep. I mean, come on,
man. Still a long ways away from a 3, right?
Well, hey, I mean, yeah, but still, like side-by-side racing, 17 into an 18 last night in the finals. Holy cow! Maybe someone had a GoPro on their car, to see the side-by-side action there. Maybe it can leak out to Facebook as well. All right.
Yep. That is all I got for that.
Zach West, how strict is tech at MAD?
I would say have your shit together and don't try to slide anywhere. Is that fair to say, Rod?
It is, but like they work with you as well as far as little things. Have a diaper, have your belly pan. If your belts are out a year, they're not going to not let you race.
Right.
If you, I don't even know what else to say. If you have something else you need to get, I don't think they're going to punt you. They're just going to give you the, hey, before you come back, make sure you have this ready, that's what I can say.
Don't show up with absolutely nothing though.
Yeah. Bring your gloves, bring your helmet in check.
Don't show up in your skivvies in your tight black spandex. Yeah,
right. And Harper's good with he'll talk to you. And if you got a question, you know, when you're thinking about it, just hit them up before then.
Yep.
You know,
Reach
say,
out.
hey, I don't know if I can get this ready or whatever. The hardest, you know, that's fine. I'll stick with that.
Yeah. Harper, they're real good to work with. They want to see you race.
Yeah.
And Jared Johnson says that race has always been this Hot Summer Nights. That race has always been a good one. I remember when there was one class and had to qualify for it.
Yeah. That's it.
Zach says a 6-point cage in a 5.0 car.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just hit Harper up.
Hit him up.
He'll answer your question. That's a good question. Cool.
Man,
Well, what a weekend.
Yes. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I see him down there. I understand he's in Florida dodging hurricanes right now. And so we'll talk about that and get him back on and finish this up. So, you know, other people are asking if he's going to need any minutes for his phone.
let's let him answer that.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah, let's bring him in. I'm ready. I think he's itching.
Hey, welcome to season 6 of Live with John Sears.
Good stuff, guys. Good stuff. Glad to be back.
John.
How's it going?
Going
We're good.
Well, you know, like the last time, you know, it sounded like I was underwater for a couple of those things, and now we're dodging a hurricane or a tropical storm down here. I'm down here visiting family and friends, and getting some opportunity to. I am in Riverview, just near Tampa, just north of Bradenton.
Yeah,
and it's where my son Matthew lives with his wife and granddaughter Mia. And we were hanging out today and yesterday, which was really cool. Got some granddaughter time and got to read some Paw Patrol books and things of that nature there that the little ones like. And so it was good stuff. And then we did some suspension work on Matthew's second gen Camaro. So
white Camaro, pictures on Facebook.
Yeah. He has his alter ego Skeeter Wyatt. He's got his own YouTube channel on there, and it's a little tongue in cheek, and he has a lot of fun going to car shows and promoting the channel. And he does his basically his mechanic routine, you know, doing different things on his little S10 and the Camaro. And I had an opportunity to help him out, and we put tubular control arms and coilovers and whatnot on the front of the car after he already did the rear leaf springs on the car. And mind you, this is a dude doing it on jack stands in a driveway in June and July in Florida. So yeah. Yep.
That sounds hot.
Yeah, no canopy, mostly hand tools. So he's definitely hardcore and old school when it comes to that. So
man.
Well, we hear you loud and clear. Do you hear us good?
Yeah. I was able to get a bunch of friends. I set up GoFundMe for minutes, and
get your track phone charged up.
Yep. Got my track phone charged up, and I think we're going to be in good shape here.
Yeah, I had a different idea that you was doing. I thought this was you.
Well,
I thought maybe Elon sent you up there to do some super telebeaming service.
Yeah, we had to tighten a few screws on a couple of the panels up there to hopefully beam my signal properly.
Yeah, cool.
Oh, man.
Start us off. Kurt and Shelley Riffle want to say hi. They said hi to you.
Hey guys.
Yeah.
Hope all is well.
Right on.
Yep.
So not to just jump in, but like where I remember we left off was the Pizza Hut conversation.
Right.
And so we can just kind of start there, set it back up, you and who all's there at Pizza Hut again, and talk us through that.
Yeah. So literally we had gotten the opportunity to, you know, meet with Jason Miller and the folks at Bud's Creek, and did a couple of things down there. And as we were looking to grow this, Nate Pritchett, Jason Miller, myself, and my good friend Randy Van Raden all sat down at a Pizza Hut and basically discussed what was the beginning of X275.
Okay.
And it was, basically 88 millimeter turbo. At the time, the F1R blower was the king from Pro Charger, and I believe we had the XI from Vortec. Big block nitrous was stuck with a single system, and small blocks were allowed multiple systems.
And what year was this? Remind us what year.
This would be 2008.
Wow.
That we started, these discussions into 2009. And from there, it just, I don't know, man. I don't know how we did it. I look back and I go, with the economic state of the country at the time and things of that nature, how do you build something, with sort of the odds stacked against you? And when it hit, we were sort of not leading edge, but I would say we were probably in the front of, one-on-one interviews with drivers that were getting put up on YouTube and shared on Yellow Bullet. And Monty and the whole Yellow Bullet thing, as you guys know, is something that's been a huge catalyst to a lot of different racing events and racing series and classes and everything else like that. So without Yellow Bullet, getting the word out probably would have been far more difficult than what it was. But that was a great springboard for racing in the heads up small tire world. Starting back in, I think 05, 06 timeframe is when Yellow Bullet really kicked off, and sort of set the standard and was like one-stop shopping for everybody in all forms of drag racing and stuff. So again, hats off to Monty and Yellow Bullet and all the people that were on there, always, helping to promote and discuss. And, we were literally posting round sheets and qualifying sheets and pictures of the cars and pictures of the drivers, video and everything else like that, and almost force feeding it through to everybody. And it was before the time, of the big YouTube influencers and things of that nature there. I was doing one-on-one interviews with drivers. My son, Matt, was doing all the video work and everything else like that, and did a bunch of compilations, and, was able to travel during the summer with us while he was home from college. And, that's really, the biggest push was the videos, the interviews, the pictures, and the constant, I was going to basically say we just inundated and flooded every platform we could with information about X275 and where it was going. And Donald Long was getting his foothold in with the No Mercy and Lights Out and all the stuff at South Georgia. They did one at Bradenton early on, which we were a part of. We were at that one. Did some 650 index racing. We also brought Florida Real Street up to Donald's event, which, has, we talked about has morphed into a couple of different things since then. But, without Yellow Bullet, without Donald Long, without Jason Miller and Nate Pritchett and Adam Pritchett, rest his soul, and all the track managers and owners that believed in us. Alan Shervitz back in the day at Bradenton, took a shot, and it really paid off. And there was a lot of spin-off and a lot of other areas that, were developing 275 8th mile racing. And it was based on, what we were working with on the East Coast with X275.
Right. So let's talk about that. Oh, sorry, Gary.
You said last week you moved from Florida to Virginia, And
right.
in that, you know, you found racing, like there wasn't a place for the small block nitrous cars, and it kind of got your idea of X cooking in your brain. Have you ever thought that if you hadn't moved to Virginia, if X wouldn't have been born, or do you think it would have still happened one way or another?
I think it would have happened one way or another. I don't know if it would have happened the same way. There was some guys up here at ACO doing some 275 racing, and Englishtown and whatnot, Cecil County, and I don't know if it would have been the same, but I think there would have been some sort of 275 explosion just based on what I was doing down in Florida and trying to get some stuff going down there. You know, Florida's pretty fickle with heads up racing. Sometimes it's really hard to keep people interested. There's a lot to do down here, boating and fishing and everything else like that. You know, if a guy owns a jet ski and a race car, well, you know, summertime, that race car is getting parked.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, or a boat or what have you. So, you know, those guys have a lot of varied interest and everything else like that. But, you know, I always loved, you know, racing down here, and I wouldn't change a thing as far as, you know, all the racing that I did down here and the wonderful experiences I had with a lot of tracks and track managers and track staff and other racers and things of that nature. But yeah, I think what we experienced in Virginia and Maryland at that time, it just, I don't know, it's kind of lightning in a bottle, if you will.
Sure. So talking through that, it's 08, you know, and you got the Pizza Hut, you start going to a couple events. How many events did you have that first year, the first season?
So we did the whole series with Nate and his brother. I want to say it was 4 or 5 events, but we also got on with, you know, 4 or 5 events at Virginia Motorsports Park, like on a Friday night. And if we weren't there, we were at Budds Creek, you know, with a week in between their normal outlaw drag radial, which was formerly Maryland Real Street. So, and once we had, you know, some division between the two, a lot of the guys that were local, they were, you know, if they were legal for X or the 275 class or what have you, they would race both, right? They would race in the outlaw deal and they would also race in the other, because they also cut the outlaw deal back to 8th mile, which, you know, again, if you're strictly a quarter-mile track and organization and everything else like that, it's kind of hard back then, and people were very resistant to 8th mile racing. But as we've seen it grow over the years, it still offers, you know, amazing opportunities for racers to showcase their race cars and their teams and their tuning and you know, their sponsorships and things of that nature there. So I don't think we lost a whole lot with 8th mile racing. You know, you've got pro mods and RVW cars and whatnot going 200 in the 8th, you know, 200 plus. So it's still fast. And, you know, I think it appeals to a lot of different people that maybe it probably wouldn't have in the past, just because of the fact that they are running the mile an hour in times that they are. I mean, 350s, 360s at 200 plus is impressive.
That's rolling. Jeez. So, you know, you had your first year, 4 or 5 events. Did it come out? Did you have to make any adjustments? Like, you know, right out of the gate, was you tweak this or tweak that in the rule categories or anything? And then at what point did you know, like, okay, we got something here and we're going to run with this?
Yeah. So initially we were kicking it off, you know, as a place for a Nitrous small block car and entity to race, you know, because, you know, they're the first thing to get kicked to the curb always. You know, and they wind up being a bit of an orphan, if you will, and nowhere to run. So as we were running it, we were also finding out that those guys were also abandoning the class and or not wanting to race it because, you know, the cream rises to the top, and it's really hard to keep people interested when they're basically getting the shit kicked out of them by 4 or 5 numbers in the 8th mile. You know, if a guy's running, you know, at the time, let's say they were running 530s, 540s, you know, back in 09 or what have you, The guy comes out with a 620 car, he's just not interested in continuing on after that, no matter, what sort of incentives you offer or second chance races you offer, or things of that nature there. So as I started to see a decline in numbers with our small block nitrous guys, I had an opportunity to work with Monster Jones and Larry's Custom Tees at an event in Maryland, and there was a bunch of guys that had hit them up about the big block nitrous combos, the turbo combos, and whatnot. And we developed a quick set of rules based off what Nate and Jason and I had all discussed, and that was basically rolling it out there to see how it would stick. And we got a couple of extra cars, and of course a couple of the nitrous small block guys decided that they were going to not go to the event because how can I compete against a turbo car or a blower car or big block nitrous car. And things as they are, you wind up having sponsorships that are promised and things of that nature there. And I wasn't feeling really good. Our car count, I think, was 14, 15, 16 cars at the time. And one of the sponsors or two of the sponsors had dropped out, and I'm hitting the ATM machine so I can make payout, directly out of my savings account and things of that nature there. And, that's never a good day. But in the end, it showed that these cars could all compete together, because I believe, if I remember correctly, a nitrous small block car did wind up winning that particular deal with Monster and Larry's Custom Tees. That was sort of the springboard for then to start morphing the rules to, allow small block boosted cars, big block nitrous cars, and small block nitrous cars all to compete on the same platform.
Hey, real quick, back to the Pizza Hut day, and the napkin and the rules and whatever. The name X275, it's a giant household name. Was there any conflict on other guys wanting a different name, or did you all agree immediately that this needs to be called X275? Was there different names thrown around?
So at first, I was like, all right, we'll just outlaw drag radial is what it is, or whatever. And, I said, well, maybe we'll call this limited 275 or, something there. And, I often would, try to sketch different logos and different things of that nature there, just to try to come up with a name, something that would catch. And Extreme 275, and then it sort of developed into just X because it's just quicker and easier. But the X does stand for extreme. Some of the rules, when we started morphing them, we did look at extreme street over at NMCA, and some of that stuff kind of bled into what we were doing, and trying to get a larger base of cars and people interested in it and everything else like that. And I developed the logo with the guys at 40 millimeter, with the skull and the X. And the X, essentially, if you look at it, it looks like it's a sort of a paintbrush strokes, because the ends are kind of tattered where it begins and ends when you swipe your X. And it's sort of like a gang tag, right? Somebody just runs by and swipes an X on your stuff and you've been marked. And I was like, all right, we can fit exactly. That's exactly the motion. Right. And I looked at that and I was like, man, I think that's going to stick. And then the whole, the way it morphed into, things with the skull and all that other stuff, it all just kind of developed into what it is, as far as being a household name and the logo, and sort of an in your face attitude about going to the track, and we're going to try to garner the most, I guess you could say, support and views and the highest car counts and everything else like that. I don't know. It just was like an avalanche after a while. So I'm just grateful to have been part of it with so many wonderful people.
So 16 years later, it couldn't have been named better, because the other options you mentioned, Limited Street and whatever street. Those have developed into a class also, but X275 is like this standard, and these other classes have kind of fallen under there, and they've got their own place. So the name X was the perfect. You probably didn't know it then, but that was the perfect name.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an old guy too. I'm a Gen Xer, you know. So it all kind of works, you know. It all kind of works. Think about it when you go like on Racing Junk, or you go on, you know, some of the Facebook Marketplace ads for race cars. X275 Mustang or X275 legal chassis, or you know, this is an X car that I've got for sale. Or if somebody says I race X, you don't have to ask. You know exactly what they are and what they're about and what class they've been a part of and everything else like that. You don't have to say X275. It's not like, well, what is that? Most people know, and the people that don't know just haven't been around small tire racing.
Yeah. Hey, Rodney, do you remember when Steve Ash leased the track out here and Madison was running it? Yeah. The small tire class was called the X275.
Oh yeah, I remember
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been adopted. All, you know, it wasn't those rules. All we had was a tire rule, which was the 275 tire, but the name of the class was X275.
Before that, like in the 2000s or in the 90s, it was small tire, big tire. And then it divorced because it was slicks back then. And then the radial tire came. And speaking of like rules and developing and just moving forward, you know, at some point you partnered up with Duck, right? Started running that series there. And then so I know the other classes have come along as well behind it, like Gary was just saying, you know, with limited and ultra and just all of those types. What kind of keeps that balance, or what in your head? Who are you? Is there a committee? Is there one person that's John Sears that decides everything, or how does all of that come into play?
Well, there's a lot of moving parts. I'll just say that. The new Radial Outlaw series, it's been out for the past couple of years. They have their own rules committee. They have control of RVW, Pro 275, and limited drag radial with Jason Ruckert sort of at the helm of that class. But they also rely heavily on one another. Eric Dillard, Scott Tidwell, you know, of course, Donald Long is, you know, huge part of the rules say and things of that nature there. Because 2 of his events, or 3 of his events, essentially are points races within the Radial Outlaws Racing Series. So he's got a huge say in all of that. X275, Ultra Street, and Limited Street, which is my 235 category, my 26 8.5 deal. Those classes pretty much are solely mine. So, you know, the blame rides with me. And if it's success, you know, it's of course, I don't even know how to say that. You know, if it is successful, I don't look at it as something I did. I look at it what the racers did, what the promoters did, to give the racers the opportunity to go race for the money that they race for, and give them the tracks and the surfaces they race on. Sure. I always look at rules as something that I don't want to be a part of, right? Like I want to write the rules, and I want to step away, and I want to let the racers sort it out on the racetrack with their cars, their driving ability, and their cruise tuning ability, to read the surface and to do the best they can within the rules that they're given. Every year there's always something that comes up. This year we had a car go 403 in X275 trim. Eric LaFerriere and Dewey Bowie's White Rice 240 car with 2J power, and an 88 millimeter turbo, pretty well restricted. They are allowed to have nitrous on that same car, which is, you know, one of the ways that we're going to have to regulate, you know, where he goes.
Right.
it's a slippery slope, right? You want to see some progression, right? You want to see the class advance, but you don't want to see it outpace the bulk of the field, the middle part of the field, right? You always got, 4 or 5 guys up front that are super fast. You've got 4 or 5 guys out back that are just showing up to have a good time and be a part of things, and then you got the bulk of your people in the middle that make up, a large percentage of the class.
Right.
So always keeping that in mind, and then watching some of these guys that, regardless of a rule set, are going to go out and perform and outperform the rule set, and often our ability to look into the future, is maybe stymied by some track conditions or just weather or what have you. And then all of a sudden these guys, everything aligns in the moon and the stars, and you're like, holy hell, I didn't think that was going to be possible. And they make it happen all the time. And it's been so many people over the years, with the Bruder brothers and Dean Marinas and Ron Rhodes, who's still running the class. Jared Johnson, was big at Holly Springs a bunch of times, and those guys have done really well. Justin Curry and the crew out there. I could just go on and on and on about the folks that have always, stepped up and been a huge part of these things. If you look at Rob Goss coming out with the Gen 3 Hemi and the High Horse Performance crew out of Delaware, Bruce Michael, his crew chief, and BES Power and everything else like that, and here's a guy driving over crankshafts for a number of years just because the parts weren't available or what have you. And, he went out with a purpose, and he dominated to the point where, we just started, ruling that Gen 3 Hemi as its own deal, and they felt it necessary to move up to limited drag radial, where they've done really well, and they've changed some things around in the car and lightened the car, and they've gone mid 380s with that same car, of course a bigger blower and some lightening done to it and things of that nature there. But it just goes to show you, that Gen 3 Hemi platform is a beast, and it's tough to write rules around something that's, performs that well and is that efficient, much like the 2J.
Right. So when you see that, you see them go up a class like Goss, like Hubbard. Does that have any effect on you when you watch that? Like they're doing something different because I wrote the rules this way or anything like that?
I don't take it personal. I think moving ahead sometimes is a really good thing, right? I write the rules, I stymie their progress or what have you, or try to keep them in check somewhat. They win a championship and they go, you know what, man, let's move up to the next class and see how well we do.
Yeah, I can see that.
And the progression is part of it, right? Do you want to continue, kind of being held back or, limiting, how much progress you can make because of the rule set and because of where the class is and where we want to keep the class, versus your own personal goals, and there are guys that have the ability, whether it be financially or they've got a great crew or a great bunch of sponsors or what have you backing them. And they're capable of making that next move. There's several teams in Ultra Street. I would love for those guys to step up and jump in, to a little bit deeper into the pool and come on into X275. But I don't know if the gap between a 440 car and something that has to run, low to mid 14s is too much of a chasm for them to be able to cross.
Right.
So, I mean, if it was a 420 class, let's say, that'd probably be a little bit easier and a little more palatable to somebody to step up and go into that. But right now, I think the biggest detriment we have is the gap between X and Ultra for those Ultra guys to even think about stepping up.
Yeah. And speaking of Ultra, did you see the news this week with the hover camp?
I did. I did. I think they're going to be dangerous. You got to figure with Rylan McClaskey and Kyla Hubbard both running Nizer pieces and having Nitrous outlet aboard, and of course Kenny now getting 2 whacks at the track with 2 different cars that are essentially going to be tuned very much the same. It's going to be a tough go for the rest of the Ultra field once they get traction with that particular combo.
Sure.
Of the nitrous, blower, and turbo combos, which one is the most difficult to keep rules in check for?
I really think the turbo becomes an issue sometimes. I think we've really done well to manage that. We smacked them pretty hard a couple years ago, and we've been slowly feeding them back a couple of things, whether it be through weight or whether it be the cover on the turbo or a couple other things, because they were starting to get a little out of hand, and things were progressing at a greater pace. But the rest of the classes and combos have caught up. Right now we're very concerned about our gear driven centrifugal supercharged combinations, just because of the inherent deficiencies in harmonics and non-billet block combinations, because you're not allowed to billet block in Ultra, and these guys they're out there with a graphite block or something like that, and even then they're still taking a beating and hurting the mains or hurting the thrust or what have you, with their crank driven blowers, with the Pro Charge or Vortex stuff.
That's what
didn't Kenny say something about that? Couldn't keep crank and block together with the Pro Charger stuff. Right.
Wow. Certainly a difficult combination, at any level. We saw in Pro Mod, Jeff Rudolph had some issues and stuff like that with his stuff up at 131 at PDRA this weekend. So it's not just an inherent deficiency within what's legal in Ultra. I think it's across the board that those combinations, depending on how many passes are on them, or how hard they buzz them, or how much timing's in the motor, or what have you, what kind of beating the crankshaft in the bottom intake.
Yeah.
I'm not a import fan by any means at all. Zero interest in import crap. But when White Rice is on the track at one of your races, man, I love watching that car get on the track. It's so awesome.
Well, they're an amazing team, and it's scary how good they are, and how willing they are to completely tear that car apart, almost Top Fuel style, in order to make another round or the next day of qualifying or racing or what have you. So hats off to the effort those guys have put in, and there's a lot of carnage along the way to get to where they are.
Man, wow.
So I see a question down here I'm going to piggyback off of, and it's talking about the tire companies. So we know in the first session it started out with BFG, back in the day. And then, of course, it's moved over to Mickey, but not just the tire company, but like obviously with this series, I've talked to Marty about this a lot at lunch, like Street Outlaws and like platforms like yourself have done good for, the vendors, if you will. And so like Pro Charger and Jose, and just like you're saying, all these companies, engine converters, any of them, I just imagine that this series that, he started on a napkin at Pizza Hut has changed the dynamic of the whole industry. Is that fair, or what's your thoughts?
Yeah, on that? I would say, as we were going along, and morphing from the original BFG into, the OG Mickey Thompson tire, which was a great tire to begin with. And then Hoosier came out with their radial, and, several of us, in the early days of 275 were on the Hoosier, and it was more compliant to what we were doing, which was, track prep hadn't hadn't gotten to where it is today, you know, where these guys are going through 3 barrels of glue in, you know, in a 3-day race, you know, program. So you start looking at, you know, tire compounds, and you start looking at how the tire is made up, and things of that nature there. And Tommy Kundrick, you know, basically come out and, you know, said that they were working on another tire, and he said it was going to completely change the game. And he goes, you know, will it be legal? And I'm like, well, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal, you know, and, you know, just, you know, chuckling with him, you know, and you know, basically it was like a double dog dare, you know. Yeah, make it the best you think you can, buddy. You know, I don't care. Let's do this. And that's when the 3754X Pro 275 tire was born. It was born out of, you know, Tommy's, you know, need to, you know, keep Mickey Thompson on top in the radio world. And him and I guess Jason Moat and a couple other folks at Mickey Thompson developed that thing. And, you know, here it is today in Pro 275 running, you know, mid 360s on that same tire. You know, and we always laugh, you know, you see somebody knock, you know, that tire off or spin that tire on the starting line, and, you know, man, you guys really must have taken a swing, you know, at it. Cause you shouldn't have been able to knock that tire off the way you did, because, you know, maybe you've got something going wrong on your car, because it's not the tire, you know, especially when 2 people before them, you know, went down and said, you know, were even, or, you know, set a class record, or what have you. So if you knock the Pro 275 off in the middle of a radial test session, or in the middle of a radial race, you know, maybe, you know, it's 2:00 in the afternoon and it's 160-degree track temperature. All right, we'll give you that one, you know. But if the sun is down and you're knocking that tire off, it ain't the tire's fault. You know, it's something that you're doing. You hit the up arrow one too many times or something when you were tuning it up, and you know, maybe you should have backed it down a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, and you know, Rodney and I, we don't race the X275, and that 420 and faster, that speed of stuff, and the stuff that happens with engines and parts down there. But the stuff that happens with their parts, that trickles down to the little guys like us, the longevity and the parts durability and the strength of that stuff. That's stuff that those heavy hitters are testing and doing, and they're drilling their stuff to the hardest they can. That stuff trickles down to us through the aftermarket, making their parts better and better. So us as little racers, it makes better parts for us down the road.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, think about how many different classes or how many different organizations, you know, may mandate the 275 Pro or the 2810 Pro bracket. You know, those 2 tires alone, you know, have set the standard in anything, you know, 28 by 10 or 275. And you know, I see guys, you know, getting 2 seasons out of them, you know, on, let's say, like a 6.0 bracket car or something. Right. You know, they're getting multiple seasons out of them, or they're buying them used from the fast guys, you know, and for $250 for the pair, you know, after that guy's beat the snot out of them, and they're getting another, you know, another year of racing out of them. So the trickle down economics, if you will, with parts and you know, durability testing and things of that nature there, or even stuff that's used coming off these guys' cars and going into somebody else's car that may not run one of these big heads up series. It's huge, and it's giving those guys a leg up on their local series and stuff like that.
I agree. Agree.
Yep.
So what class right now has you up at night? You know what I mean? You're thinking about and
X.
And, X.
X.
Of course.
Is it
X is my X is my unruly teenager that doesn't understand that the lights and doors are locked at midnight, on Friday and Saturday nights. And, you're going to have to do the right thing if you want to get back in the house or, be home on time. They are an unruly teenager, so to speak. And it is a constant mental battle that I have to just shut off sometimes. Because in the past it is really, just been this obsession with, and I hate to say it, with perfection in a rule set, just trying to always get it right. And, in the past, I may have made, too many rule changes too soon, affected too many people. And now lately, I may have backed off of it too much. And I may have been, I may need to be more hands-on with it. And I think that's part of the case, right? Is trying to find that balance between obsession and passion, where you're making good choices and you're making good decisions, for the class as a whole, for the organizations you're working with, and for your racers especially.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure there's racers you're getting Christmas cards from, and there's racers that you're not.
Right.
You know what, man? If they're all mad, that means I'm doing my job right.
Oh, that's great.
This is a great comment from our friend Troy that we race with, Troy Aves here in Wichita.
Right.
He has one of them Hemis like Rob Goss, like you talked about Rob Goss.
Right.
He has a great comment. He brings up something here. He says, I would say if it wasn't for Rob Goss and his work in X275, the Gen 3 Hemi would not have as many parts options available as they do now. That's a great point.
100%.
Yes.
100%. Rob and his team, Bruce Michael, of course, BES, and Josh and the rest of the crew at High Horse, and the way they all work together in developing these parts. And, they are going to find the weak link. And when they do, you know what they're going to come back with?
Something
a better piece and a better program and a better part. And, you talk about that trickle down stuff.
Yep.
That's a huge part of what they've got going on. And they want to, have sort of that old school mindset, win on Sunday, sell on Monday.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And I think it's working. You're the gentleman that commented is Troy. He's dead on with that comment.
Yes.
And I bet there's a lot of people out there with Gen 3 Hemis that look at Rob and go, one day I'm going to get there, or thanks Rob for driving over the crankshaft 3 different times. And now we've got good blocks to work with, or good cylinder heads.
Because he's listening, Troy, you're listening now. Verify what I'm about to say. Another racer with a Gen 3 Hemi, your local guy we race with, his name is Greg, right? I think Greg has one of Rob Goss's old short blocks or long blocks. I don't remember exactly what, but Troy, you might know for sure. But one of Rob Goss's old pieces has ended up here in Wichita in one of our fellow racers' cars. So
and that's what I'm talking about. You get these pieces from these main, I'll call them characters in these organizations and stuff like that, and freshen the thing up. And you go out there and you're going to go from a mid-pack guy to somebody that's going to be running near the front, as long as your tune-up's correct, and you're the rest of the car is there to work with the engine program.
And Troy says it started out as some of his pieces, so there it is. It's trickled down to some
Shannon Campbell, Charles Hall.
Oh right, yeah, yep,
right,
yeah. One of Charles Hall's old X275 small block Fords ended up in our fellow racers Mustang here local a few years back.
Right, and I'm sure it did quite well.
Yeah, it's a good piece. Good, Rodney, remembering that.
Yeah.
Ford guy, you'd remember, right?
That's why I keep you around. You know what I mean? So,
Oh yeah.
so let's look ahead, John. What do you see in 5 years?
It's tough to say, because I never thought I'd even be where I'm at right now. When I retired, like shortly after turning 55, which is, 2 years and some months ago, well, 3 years and some months ago, I should say, I went to work for the PDRA as their tech director, and never thought in a million years that I would ever be given an opportunity, like that, coming out of the small tire world and getting to work for an organization like PDRA. I had known Tyler Crossno for some years prior to that, and worked with him at Holly Springs and Memphis, and his outlaw streetcar reunion races and things of that nature there. But being tech director at PDRA opened up doors with the World Series of Pro Mod, and then the pro event that we had at Bradenton as well. And now I get to work with Wes Buck and Mike Carpenter and JT Hudson and the rest of the fine folks over there at World Series of Pro Mod.
There you are.
As their competition director. Yeah, there I am. Yep, all geared up. Trying to look professional there. We have a great rapport with those guys at Drag Illustrated, and that bled into the whole pro event. And things of that nature there. And once the stuff kicked off with that, it opened up the door for, a bunch of other things to happen. But I never wanted to forget, my small tire roots, and I've always continued with the radial stuff and X and Ultra and Limited. And, I had my own RTRA, the Radial Tire Racing Association series. The guys down in Texas had that for a little while, and I was basically looking to bring my 3 classes under one roof. And I knew those guys weren't doing the RTRA anymore, and I loved their logo, and I loved, Radial Tire Racing Association. And I asked them, I said, hey, what are you guys doing with that? They said, nothing, man. You're welcome to it. We'd love to see you do something with it. So, with the help of, people like Marty Chance and the guys at High Horse Performance and Pro Charger and Mickey Thompson, and, I could just, Vortec and Precision and all these other different companies, I was able to provide year-end funds, points funds for X, Ultra, and Limited Street under the RTRA banner, which was an amazing opportunity, right? You never think anything like that. And I was working, to get guys points at their more local events, right? Because not everybody can travel. So if there's going to be a radial race and it's going to have X or Ultra or Limited at it, let's add that into the group of races that these guys can pick and choose from. And that way they're not going to always have to travel to certain destinations and everything else like that. And we did that for a number of years. And I think in 23, we paid out close to $60,000 between end of year funds and also different events over the year with Limited Street, where we were funding the full payout through sponsorships and things of that nature there. So between those two combined, we threw $60,000 at small tire racers, which, in the big scheme of things and stuff, and what some of these other guys are able to do, may seem small, but I'm sure the people getting the checks didn't think that they were small or didn't appreciate them. And I appreciate all of them and their participation and the sponsors that supported us and everything else like that. Once the Radial Outlaw series became a thing and they were doing stuff, some of those smaller racers and those opportunities for these racers to race locally kind of dried up. And so I didn't think it fair to ask sponsors to, sort of double dip, right? They might be sponsoring the Radial Outlaw series, but they're also going to sponsor RTRA, but they're the same races and all that other stuff. And I didn't think that was the right thing to do. So I stepped away from, Ultra Street and X275 as far as a year-end point series, and now limited is still my points series, and we have a points fund, and we've got some amazing sponsors with SP Tools USA, Force Induction Turbo, RC Comp Wheels, Ultimate Converter. We've got Nitrous Outlet on board. We've got Flow. We've got IRD Carbs. My good friend Jeff Salvato at Salvato Designs, who handles all the X275 gear and sales and everything else like that. He's a big supporter of the class. And then the overall points fund with our title sponsor Callie's and Energy Manufacturing, Pro Charger, Mickey Thompson, High Horse Performance. It's just a number of names that have been so good to us and support our little limited 235 deal, or limited street. And we call it limited street now because we absorbed the old DXP street class into our 235 deal. So we did that. I think we talked about that already. But RTRA has grown as well. And we provide tech service at multiple events. We have multiple people that are working with us at various events. We've got a couple of guys semi-retired. Dennis Jr. Hampton, he did a lot of the stuff with me early on at Donald's events and worked a bunch of those with us. Rick Dodge, who I work sick week with and sick summer with, and along with various radial events and stuff down there at World Series of Pro Mod and the Snowbirds and U.S. Street Nationals and all that. Jennifer Briggs, who was on last week, who said she'd text me some minutes. Appreciate that. She works with us at a bunch of different events, and has her bronze NHRA, tech credentials. Gentleman by the name of Jim Bailey also works with us. Vinny Ludicina, who is now the tech director at PDRA, work all these independent events with us. Jim Bailey, Mike Washington, Eddie Maloney, I don't know if I said his name yet, and several other folks, Jesse Burke down in Texas. They all fall under our banner at one time or another at different events. And this year, when I left my position as tech director of PDRA, it wasn't long thereafter that I picked up, more dates to sort of fill the holes that were left by the PDRA event, and the folks at MPK gave us a shout, and they wanted to know, what our current status was and whether or not we could fulfill, an obligation of 22 events with them across the country, and without even thinking about it, without even looking at their dates really in any comprehensive manner, I was like, yeah, we can do it. And because I don't know if I'm dumb or stubborn or just not with it enough to say no to these kind of challenges or whatever, right? Like Heads Up Racing, how many people last, for any period of time writing rules or being in and around Heads Up Racing in any capacity, official capacity whatsoever? You probably can't name one person that had anything to do with Outlaw 10-5 rules or anything like that back in the day when it happened. There's probably a couple people out there, but most of those guys aren't doing this kind of stuff anymore, because it, I always look at it as something that probably has taken a couple of years off my life, just due to stress and what have you. So we were able to open the door into another form of racing with MPK, and provide tech service for them, which has just been an awesome opportunity, and just another genre of racing that we're exposed to, and we're also exposing them to us, right? They see how we deal with them and how we treat them and how we inspect their cars and how we make sure that things are a certain way and they conform and comply and to the NHRA rules and the NPK rule sets and things of that nature there. So it's been quite a ride for the RTRA and the staff. Oftentimes you look at what we provide as far as tech and staffing goes, and I want to be able to have our people show up to an event. They're going to be on time. They're going to be professional. They're going to be courteous. They're going to be fair, but they're also going to be able to hold their ground, and they're going to understand the rule sets that they're enforcing and things of that nature there. And I want us to be, basically a turnkey deal where if you have us there teching your event or what have you, you're not going to have to worry about us being on time. You're not going to have to worry about us running to you to make decisions every 5 minutes throughout the day. We're going to try to take care of things at the lowest level possible, which is us and the racer right then and there in tech. And I think that's the biggest thing that we are able to offer racetracks and promoters and organizations and stuff like that. It's a consistent way of applying the rules and looking the cars over, and understanding the need, like you guys were talking about the belts and stuff like that, and go, we're not going to, throw this guy out for, belts that are, a couple months out of date or whatever. We're going to try to use, common sense and good judgment, or we're going to note, that this guy needs to get, some belts in his car. We're not going to let somebody run with a 2010 helmet. But if they have the correct helmet, the correct safety gear and things of that nature there, we're going to try to make sure that these guys are able to get things fixed on site, or, the next time we see them, that things are taken care of. And that's what we try to offer. I know you guys know, Kurt Johnson and TVC and
Yep.
Total Venue Concepts and all that stuff. And, I have a lot of admiration for Kurt and his business sense and things that he's accomplished in this world. And I wanted to do basically the same thing, but from the tech side, right? So that's a huge thing. Weather has come into play in July for us, right? So NPK went to Canada, and they were like, hey, listen, things being what they are, we don't know what to anticipate up there. So we're basically not going to have you guys come with us to Canada, and we've already performed annual inspections on these cars and things of that nature there. And, we know what the deficiencies are, if any at all, licensing, chassis certifications, driver safety gear, the things that are on the cars and stuff like that. So we know these guys are going down the track in a safe manner. So they asked, hey, can you guys sit this one out? And I'm like, yep, no problem. Well, then we also lost the Radial Outlaws Racing Series race in Alabama due to rain, right? Yeah. So I put a call out to see if there was anybody out there that needed additional tech services, or, are there any races going on that we can help out with. We're capable of, running the staging lanes, pairing cars, putting fires out where they need be, running the scales, if, what have you. Any of those things right there, we're all very capable of, and I've got staff, sort of on standby, that are able to accomplish those things. So track owners and promoters, if you're out there, give me a holler, man. We've got stuff going on. John at X275.net. Let me know. We can probably help you out. But we'll be kicking that back off again here real soon with NPK back up in Washington, and then again in Idaho. Right. And then we move to the Yellow Bullet race at Cecil County.
Wow.
We don't have to spend much time on this. Real quick, and you touched on it last week. Our buddy Troy says, will X275 hit the threes this fall?
I'm going to do everything in my power to make that not happen.
That was your answer last week too. So there you go, Troy.
Yeah.
I told you we offer consistency.
Yeah, there you go.
So we kind of brushed on this a little bit, but I want to take a deeper dive. You mentioned track prep, three barrels in a 3-day race and stuff. And let's talk about that. Back in the day when you saw the swing where, who was the decider? Like, all right, we're going to throw a whole barrel at this deal. And you saw, where the track went from light prep, let's call it, to radial prep. And how did that change the game?
Man, I tell you what, I always love to see stuff, like this come up online where guys are complaining about track prep and things of that nature there. And, if they knew anything about running on a BFG back in the day and, the tractor would essentially, broom each lane a couple of times. They would drag it. You'd probably get a little gold dust. They drag it again. They do a quick hand spray if you were lucky. And they would send, 4 classes down without doing any touch up in between. So, today you look at things like, early on, with lights out and no mercy in those races up there. And there was always this big push to be early to go down, right? Because we want the good prep, right? Yeah. We don't want the stuff that, 16 pairs of cars have gone down. We want the good stuff. So they've developed a way within the Radial Outlaws Racing Series to make sure that through the cycle of qualifying, everybody gets the opportunity to be on the good prep. But what happens when, let's say, the track owner decides that the glue is too costly? What's the cost of a barrel of drum now, or a barrel of glue now, right? What is it a drum? Let's say it's $900. Let's say it's $1,300. We'll just use $1,200. How about we just use $1,200, right? So track owner is now in a 3 or a 4-day race. Maybe he's used 3 barrels of glue at $1,200 each. He's $3,600. That's a $3,600 deficit he has to overcome after paying his staff, right? Paying for the lights, paying for the insurance, paying for the emergency services, paying for the RTRA staff to come out there and tech the event, right? All those things come into play. So when we talk about track prep, I would, gosh, and I don't want to offend Kurt or anybody else in the traction building business, but at some point, if we're not super gluing the tracks, I think the racing may be a little slower, but it also may be a little tighter. And it may also give some of these guys that don't have the big budgets and the big horsepower an opportunity to go down when, the big dog overshoots his ability somewhat. Sure. So track prep for me is a love-hate relationship, man. I love non-aborted passes, right? Because it's expensive to go down the track, right? You want to make every pass count, especially in qualifying or especially, when you're in a final round against somebody. But at the same time, what does that do to the overall structure? And because the glue is so good, have we made, some heroes out of potential zeros, as my buddy Troy Perez likes to say? Is that a fair question to ask?
Yeah, we discussed that here locally as well. How good the track prep, light prep, no prep, all prep, radio prep, slick prep,
sun up, sun down,
yeah,
shade from the bleachers, all that.
We always talk through that. So make a good point though too. Just bringing the other cars that can't run with the killers, but maybe if the track was, a different prep, however you want to say it, it brings tighter.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, is that what you guys are seeing locally? Are you guys seeing, the tracks, giving a good effort, but not that radial prep?
We get a great effort from our track manager. And he's also getting really good at giving a good surface when the sun is on it. We've been seeing that too. So obviously when the sun is down, it's optimum, but even when the sun is on the track, you can get a pretty good lick down with the sun on it. He's really good at the sun and the shade prep.
Right. That's important, right? That's, and that goes into another thing too, right? Is the duration of some of the events, right? Like,
Right.
Does the track have a curfew? Does the track not have a curfew?
Right.
Do we want to be here at sun up?
Right.
Running a semifinal, which I've been there.
Sure.
Where we've run the finals at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning at some of these events. And if you're able to do that, well, hats off to you. You're going to provide a great surface for your racers. And you're going to get a bunch of fans in when the sun goes down and everything else like that. So there's a lot of give and take there, right? Like you always hear about the show, the quote unquote, the show. You need a tight show. You need the bulk of your racing to take place between, let's say, 6 and 9 p.m., 9:30, 10 p.m. That gives people the opportunity to get home. The kids aren't up too late. They're not running around getting into trouble or what have you. While the racing's going on, and then by the time you get them into the car and they're exhausted and cranky and everything else like that, it just kind of detracts from the whole thing for a family if they want to go out and watch racing and stuff like that, because that's the reality of it, right? Not every fan is going to be there for the duration of a 10 to 12 hour show. But it also depends on the product that's being put out on the track too, right?
Yeah.
What kind of money are they racing for? What sort of hype was behind the event? Is this something new and different, or is this something that we've seen before?
Yeah.
So it's a fine line we ride, and I think drag racing does a good job of putting so many different genres of and categories of cars out there that I think there's something for everybody out there. I got an opportunity to hang out with Jimmy Dale and Michael Poland at their event at Yellow Belly this year. And I'm teching cars in the staging lanes, and there's a lot of guys that were extremely nervous, and they're like, "What are you doing here?" And
Oh no.
they're like, "Man, had I known you were here, I would have kept my car in the trailer because I know this is going to get difficult." And I'm like, "Listen," I said, I'm here to make sure that you guys are adhering to the class rules. I said the track is the safety conscious side of things. They're the ones that are responsible for that. I am only here to make sure that you adhere to the class rules themselves, not the safety rules. And they started laughing. I said, because if it was safety rules, all you guys would be going home. And then they started laughing and tried to break the ice that way.
Yeah.
Awesome. Jared Johnston, just so you know, he says, I got official 3-second club stickers being made. Oh no.
Man, Jared, how much am I going to owe you for those things? And I'll just buy them all from you because,
make it disappear, right?
Right.
Oh,
Not to
man.
talk politics or anything, but I'm sure there's a bunch of boxes of, Biden 2024 shirts out there somewhere.
Oh man. Come on, Jared. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh.
We're talking about but I see Troy's comment, and I'll spin that.
Yeah.
About like the technology as well with, shocks or converters or traction controls, wheelie controls. That also aids in the ETs and stuff we're seeing as well,
100%. Think about several years ago, when Mark Menser, came on board. I think I met Mark in 2010 at Mooresville, and he was doing some circle track stuff, and he met my friend Randy Van Raden, and then introduced him to me, and we struck up quite the conversation about drag shocks and things of that nature there, and there was some good stuff coming out of AFCO and Strange and QA1 and stuff like that, and but nobody really like grabbed the bull by the horns unless you were in pro mod, with a set of Penske's or something out there. The small tire guys didn't like have their guy, and Mark, through his wisdom and his knowledge and his perseverance is, put himself at the forefront of the shock world in the small tire category. And he has also, gotten into pro mods and things of that nature there, and done quite well with the different shock packages that he offers, the tuning, the on-track rebuilding, all those things right there. You look back at the early 2000s and stuff like that with, somebody that had maybe a tattletale tack in their car, that was, you were able to replay the run, and, that was like, holy cow. And then, you get something like Axel DFI on there, and you're able to look at all the different parameters, and then race pack and all the different things that have come out. Hell, now you've got, shock graphs for each corner of the car. You've got, converter charge pressure, that you can track, just the nitrous pressures before and after the solenoid, so you can see what sort of pressure drop you have and what the efficiency of the solenoid and the distribution block are, and all those different things, because that creates phase change and whatnot. And then you've got speed sensors for your turbocharger, right? What the shaft speed is at what boost level, and then you can figure out the tune from there. You can have a window for your fuel curve and your timing curve, and you can add timing and take timing away, or you can create boost curves, especially now with the E-gates, right? The E-gates are a game changer for a lot of the turbo cars, right? Because we don't have to watch them start spooling up in the water box and then drag the front tires to the starting line, right? That used to be a thing back in the day, right? Like as a nitrous guy, I always wanted to face off against some turbo guy early on in the rounds, because as long as it took them guys to spool, you could play a little game at the tree a little bit if you had to. You've got time with auto start to make them figure out that maybe they got to pull back off the two-step because they jumped on it too soon, and the minute they come back off the gas, you dive in, and then they drop the tree. Those are things that happen, right? But shoot, the way they got those things set up now, man, them guys are on boost, with the converter, technology and the E-gates and everything else like that, and the linear boost curves that they can create, man, that's a tough combo to beat, and that's not even talking about, the centrifugal superchargers and stuff like that, you basically, plot your timing curve and your drive shaft and your engine RPM, and you lay that stuff all out there, and them guys go out there and set the world on fire. So it's definitely a different world. I'd like to have everybody, have a 6AL, and let's see what you can do with that.
Oh man.
Yeah, I'm not even giving you a 7531, man. We're gonna.
Oh man. plug in a chip in the side of it.
Right. Yeah, and you only got one plug in, and that's the high side. I'm not even going to give you the two-step.
Right up against the converter. That's funny.
Yep. That's old school, right?
Yep. It is. It
Yeah.
doesn't seem that long ago, but it was a long time ago.
No, dude, it's showing my age.
Yeah. I remember when like 160-pound injectors were the biggest ones you could get. You know?
Right. Right. And now right. And you'd watch people stack, 2-3 sets of injectors per runner or what have you, just to have enough fuel to go in there. And now look at what you can do.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Packaging and everything is it's beyond what anybody's expectation was. But I mean, if you look at, guys back in the 50s and 60s when they were drag racing, when guys in the 80s and 90s started drag racing, there's a big difference between what they had and what, guys in the 80s and 90s had. And of course, what, guys in the, 2000s and, beyond have. So it's a different world for sure.
Yeah.
Gary, take 30 seconds and pay some bills.
All right. Good idea. Golly. Let's grab, wrong button. Let's shout out to our partners in 2024, Mid-America Dragway, Ultra Color Collision Repair, Sandlin Iron and Metal Auto Salvage, and Harry Street Carpet. Thank you to these great partners in 2024. Thank you very much.
Nice
Bam.
job. So go ahead.
Go, Rod.
Well, I was just going to say, and back in the you were talking about the napkin and that sort of thing, a small tire. Right before that, the import world was kind of taking off. You remember that?
Oh yeah.
And it kind of went there for a little bit, and then it kind of, around here, I don't know what the mainstream's doing, but it's not as popular as like Nobi and that sort of thing. Did you see a lot of that on the East Coast when you were at it?
Yeah, we did. We saw a lot, and especially with me being down in Miami, the import scene was pretty big down there. And going back to some of our early rule sets and things of that nature, people are like, oh man, since when did we allow inline 6 cylinders and 4 cylinders? And man, I'll go into my computer and dig out a rule set from 2010, and the inline 6 and 4 cylinder stuff and V6 stuff was always in the rule sets, because I wanted that diversity, right? Like I wanted to be able to see how many different combinations that we could get. And that's probably one of the reasons why none of those guys on the RORS committee want to venture into the deep waters that is the X275 rule set, right? Like, because there's so many different combinations and so many different possibilities there, that the level of knowledge and the management of the class is really tough. But it to me, that's one of the appeals, right? We've got diesels running an X275, and we've got 2Js running an X275, and we had the Titan Supra run, and that's a car with Gary White behind the wheel and the owner Nero and Eric Lazinski, working the clutch and tune-ups and things of that nature. Man, talk about a team with some history, right? And those guys felt the need to come over and stake a claim over an X275 as well, along with White Rice, Ryan Milliken with the diesel. We've got so many guys with, small block Fords doing things, and of course, Rob, leading the charge on the Gem 3 Hemi stuff and all those different things. Really, that's what makes X275 special, I think, is the level of diversity that we offer. And, being in Virginia and Maryland area there with racing and things of that nature there, Jason Miller has the World Cup event every year that I get an opportunity to work at. And, being exposed to all those different import combinations, working the reunion race for Victor at Bradenton, working FL2K for Victor at Bradenton. All of those events exposed me to a lot of imports and a lot of different combinations as well. So I'm blessed to be able to, work with as many promoters as I do, as many techs as I do, in as many diverse fields as I have. I can go from junior dragsters and bracket cars one weekend to MPK cars the next weekend to outlaw radial cars the following weekend, and then pro mods and then imports. You know, I mean, we try to cover as much as we can, and be knowledgeable, but also, you know, diverse in our abilities to tech, and also, you know, to give a fair playing field like that, you have to have that kind of background and that knowledge, and hopefully that's what I bring to, you know, drag racing as a whole. You know, is that diversity where you don't have to run, you know, your super at an import only event. Bring that thing over here to us in the domestic world and let us see if we can't fit you in there. You know, the diesel guys, you guys don't have to run, what is it, at the NDRA or whatever it is. You guys don't have to solely race over there. Let's see where we can fit you in over here. And slowly but surely, there's more diesels coming out to race. There's more import cars coming over to, you know, what they consider the dark side. You know, we consider going to the import world the dark side, but, you know, coming over to run with the domestics and things of that nature there. So all it does for me is helps me build my resume, which is kind of selfish, but also it helps build drag racing as a whole, because you get sort of that cross-pollination with fans and cross-pollination with sponsors and promoters. And then when these promoters start working with one another, all it's going to do is make drag racing as a whole better.
Yeah, agree. You know, you were sitting in the box before we brought you in, and you saw, you know, the race yesterday, hot summer nights, Friday and Saturday, over here to Little Track, the Kansas Missouri border, Mocan.
Yep.
And there's this group that Gary and I, last couple of years, have started kind of, you know, racing with, getting to know them. They're out of Missouri, and they brought us in like family. And you know, a lot of our racing into this year, next year, will be with that group. and I can see this community over there that have brought us in. And my question to you is, you know, you talk about you racing this whole platform, MPK, Pro Mod, you know, X, all these different ones.
Drag and drive as well, right?
There you go.
Right.
Exactly. So
stick week, drag week, all that stuff.
Is that same community and in each one different? Or are they about the same with the different race? You know, is that the same kind of energy, or different communities kind of are different? You know what I mean? Because I can tell you right now, this Titans deal, they're family.
So I'll say that they are family right until they line up with one another. Right. Like, as any good competitor, right? Hey man, good luck. You know, be safe out there. But I hope I drill you on the tree, and I'm going to shoot face you if I get the opportunity.
Sure.
You know,
Rodney,
right.
When we line our small blocks up next year, I'm going to whip your ass.
There you go.
High in the face.
Oh, man.
You know, but I think you see all these different groups within themselves all have their own little energy and camaraderie with one another. But we get to see all them interact, like at World Cup, right? That's basically a couple of worlds colliding. When Victor at Bradenton does the Snowbirds and US Street Nationals, we have Pro Mod, you know, there. And we've had Extreme Front Wheel Drive there, but we've also had index cars there, and bracket cars there, and radial cars there, right? So there's a very diverse mix amongst all those different categories, and they all seem to have one thing in common, and that's, you know, getting the W and taking home that big check at the end of the weekend, you know, in their respective class.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you brought up the World Cup. I like watching that. You know, it's on. I'll have it on all weekend on this monitor right here, watching that. Do the imports not have engine or oil containment under them cars? Because it seems like they make a mess on the track a lot.
So that's one of the things that we do in tech, right? So they come through in tech, and they're all inspected for engine diapers, engine containment, what have you. We also have a mirror on wheels, and the techs will go to the staging lanes prior to these cars making a pass, and they will inspect them for diapers, pans, proper engine containment, all that stuff. They all have it. The problem is they're winging these things, 9, 10,000 RPM, and I don't care what you got on it, something's going to give,
Right.
And for the most part, some of them, are really good as far as how the containment fits, and how efficient it is in keeping the parts and the oil, and fluids from scattering everywhere. And some are not as good as others, just to be depending on the configuration of the car and engine and what have you. Again, it's just one of those things. You hear them hollering about, putting heat in the motor. Well, you got to put heat in the motor when it's 40 friggin' degrees outside, and you're getting ready to make a sub 8-second quarter-mile pass in the car. And you're beating the snot out of it, and you've been beating the snot out of it since, Wednesday. And here it is Sunday night, right? So, those guys right there, that's a prerequisite when you come through tech, for every car in every class, for the most part, that engine containment is a requirement.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Now if we can just get some sort of headset requirement in there where they're tuned into the track radio, and somebody can yell at them to stop. that may cut down the length, right? And
put some lights up like NASCAR has. Give them a red light on this on the fence. Stop.
Right. Stop. Yep. Something, right? Just to kind of trigger that momentum stop, so to speak.
Yeah. Another question there, thinking through that, Gary asked me a question about a year ago now, just talking about like, we were in the final race just to set it up, and the car that I was racing basically died coming out of the burnout box. And so, my guy came over to open the door. He goes, "Hey, they need a minute," so I shut my car off. And this whole like 2-minute rule or whatever, I see an MPK. Does NHRA have a standard there? Is it the starter that decides, or is it just the competitors that decide? Talk to me a little bit about that.
So it's a starter that's going to make that call, or whoever's running the ready line, that once they get to a certain point past the ready line, that they need to be started and running within that 2-minute window. So like if the car starts and it shuts off, they've got 2 minutes essentially to get the thing restarted. Or if the chute pops out inadvertently, you'll see a car go through the water box, get into his burnout, and it shakes the tires real hard, and sometimes the chute will come out or something like that. Somebody didn't, have the pin in correctly, or the cable wasn't long enough or whatever, or wasn't properly through the loop and whatnot. A lot of times the competitor will not want to win in that fashion, right? So they will allow that person all the time they need. Well, you've got a race director up in the tower that's already calling the guy at the ready line, or calling the starter, or calling the water box guy that, listen, you need to let them know that they've got 2 minutes, and that they need to get that car started, and they need to get that car running, and they need to be at the line. As a competitor, you got to see both sides of it, right? I've already done my burnout. My car's already, getting past temperature where I feel comfortable making a pass down the track with it. Do I back out at that point right there and park my car and shut it off? And now I'm also guilty of being, in the 2-minute rule. And, there's a lot of things that go into effect at that point right there. But I look at it like this: there's a ready line there for a reason, right? Once you pass that ready line, you say you're ready to race. And if something happens, they're going to give you 2 minutes to run. And if your competitor and or the race director or whomever deem it necessary, and you can take longer, well then so be it. But I'm a big fan of the 2-minute rule because I think what it does is it promotes people to be a little more cognizant of what they've got going on in their program, run a little bit tighter ship, be a little more efficient, a little more proficient, and it's the ready line's there for a reason. It says you're ready to race.
What if the 2 minutes is up and the guy that's ready doesn't want to race because the other guy isn't ready? Will they both be disqualified? How will that get handled?
So generally what happens at that point right there, so if you're on the clock and you get your car fired and now the other guy doesn't want to fire, well, he's gonna essentially then be under the 2-minute clock as well, right? Because it's not one or the other. Each one of them has to have their own 2-minute time period. Let's say something happened to that guy, he's couldn't get it backed up or something like that, right? So the crew had to push the car back, and now they're fiddling with the wire, to the trans brake solenoid or something like that, and they're trying to get that done. Meanwhile, Mr. Engine cutoff couldn't get it restarted. Finally restarts it, and he starts edging his way to the starting line. Well, that's kind of a dick move, don't you think? I gave you 2 minutes. You better give me 2 minutes. And I think that, most race directors, starters, water box staff, ready line staff, they all know that.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. I was just thinking like Rodney needs 2 minutes and I'm ready to race and he takes longer than 2 minutes. Well, I don't want to race because he's not ready. I want to wait for him, and the starter or whoever's saying, you got to go, but I want to race Rod. I don't want to freebie like that. I want to race the guy in the other lane.
And that's where you get on your headset and you tell your crew member to go over there and tell the starter, says, we're not going to go until he goes.
Yeah.
And then, after that, the race director will meet you in your pit.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Got a question from Jimmy talking about 2JZ and Ultra? Question mark.
Yeah, so 2J's legal, 76 millimeter turbo. It's a 76 millimeter inducer, 116 millimeter exducer, and I want to say it's 9888 on the exhaust side. I think I'd have to look at the rules, 9688 or something like that. But
nobody's
yeah,
run
it's
that
legal.
combo yet.
No.
Huh.
I don't know why, but I'm sure there's some Fox body out there somewhere with a 2J in it. Yep.
Is that class allowed with that combo with the help of nitrous like X?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Interesting.
No. Much like billet blocks and whatnot, that's not allowed in Ultra.
Interesting.
76 millimeter. They should be able to get that thing up on boost pretty easily.
Right.
There you
go. Do you get to race very often yourself?
So a couple years back, I got my Malibu all ready to go. I think you guys might have a couple pictures of that thing somewhere. Yep, there she is. That's a SB2 Boo. And I bought new belts. I bought a new helmet. I bought 4 pails of C23. I filled up all my nitrous bottles. I loaded the car in there and tried to go out multiple times, 4 times, and all 4 times it rained out. And I was like, I'm just jinxing everybody else's opportunities at this point. So I sort of backed off, but it's literally sitting just about ready to go. Should I get an opportunity to get that thing back out there again. And we were running a no time class called No Clock Small Block, and then Nitrous X No Time as well, with that car. And we have it jetted to where the SB2's happy and it's it's not eating pistons, and because those things are fairly sensitive to timing and nitrous and stuff like that. But yeah, we're gonna try to get that thing back out before too long. you know, and try to make some more passes in it and stuff.
How did you end up on the SB2 combo?
So Barry Mitchell, a gentleman that, you know, ran RVW and Pro 275 and LDR and X275 back in the day, had a Nova with this SB2 in it, and it just got a little too finicky for him, and he went to a Fulton SBX, and that engine was sitting at Clements Racing fresh and ready to go. And you know, the rest is history. Barry, you know, said it was for sale, and did I know anybody? And I asked him how much, and he gave me a number and that it was supposed to sell for to a buddy of his. And I said, well, will you honor that same number with me? He said, absolutely. I said, well, consider it sold.
There you go.
So I wound up buying it, and it's got a real nice 169 glide behind it and ultimate converter. You know, we're going to try a turbo 400 2-speed behind it by RPM transmissions before too long, as long as we get the opportunity to get out and race. But, you know, with the schedule that we have, you know, we are booked through a lot of weekends in prime racing weather, so the opportunity doesn't present itself.
Yeah.
Out of a year, how many weekends are you hired to tech for whatever organization you're working for?
I would say 30 to 35 weekends.
Oh, wow. That doesn't leave you much time to race.
No, and the last, you know, couple of weeks that I've been off, I've been cleaning my shop and organizing my shop and, you know, working on some streetcar projects and stuff like that. You know, things get cluttered when you're not there all the time, or you're, you know, doing whatever and you're not putting things away. You're just putting them into the shop.
Yeah,
Right. So literally, sold the El Camino and 63 Chevy truck I think we talked about last time. That's my buddy Randy there in the light blue shirt, that was there at the first rules meeting. And of course, my good friend Ben Dinkle, there we kind of recreated that one picture when the Malibu was black. Same car, same three guys, same position. We run it up when the car was black. And my son was actually driving it this weekend here that we recreated it, and almost like, I think it was 10 years almost to the day that he run it up in my car at the same racetrack.
that's awesome.
Which was a really, really good time. You know, those are some of my best times at the racetrack with friends and family. And, you know, that's my son, Matt, right there.
Okay.
And, you know, without my friends and without my family and without, you know, the people that I have in my life, supporting me the way they do, there's just no way that, I could do, what I do. So I appreciate every single one of them and all the racers and sponsors and stuff that we have behind us, track owners, promoters, you name it, man. Just blessed to be here.
Does your son help like on your tech side of stuff? Does he help work with you on the tech stuff at the races you go to?
No, he actually, I try to keep him on the video side of things, and let him manage that. So he'll come out to different events. Like if I'm in the Bradenton area, you know, I will, I'll make sure he's got a pass to get in at the gate, and, you know, he'll come down and take a bunch of video or pictures or things of that nature there that he can use on his channel, on YouTube. That's one of the biggest things is we go to the racetrack together, him and I, and of course Randy is there with us as well. And I don't know, it's just a big family affair essentially. And the three of us all have tasks that we perform on the car. Matt's is driving the car when they're there, because he's the lightest out of Randy and I, and him. And he charges the battery, he fills it up with fuel, and he airs up the rear tires. And I tell him to walk away, go mingle, go watch other classes race, go enjoy your time here at the racetrack. Randy and I'll get the car turned the rest of the way. That way his mind's not cluttered up with, you know, putting plugs in and you know, looking at the race pack, or, you know, making adjustments in the because we have a 7531 on the car, you know, making adjustments there, making suspension adjustments, none of that stuff. I mean, I literally open the gate valve after opening the bottle, and I'll purge the bottle down to 920 where we need it, because I always tease them. I'm like, just stab and steer, monkey. You know, we got this. and that way he's concentrating on his job, right? Because everybody's got a job to do there. His is to cut that button loose and be on the tree. And because he's lighter than us and everything else like that, well, that's, you know, and younger, and he's better at the tree than I am. The first time I put him in that car, I told him, we took him out of the black Chevelle that, you know, it's got a Sportsman brake in it. It's a small motor, heavy car. I said, if you go, you know, 020 or better, you know, your first time in my car, I'll let you continue driving it. I think he went like a 16 or something like that in there. You know, and he was doing well. You know, he was cutting 30 and 40 lights pretty consistently. You know, he'd dip down into the 20s and teens occasionally with the Chevelle, but, you know, it's just a heavy car leaving kind of slow and whatnot. And once he got into Malibu and did so well, I just kind of kept him in it.
You know, talking about, you know, the jobs that you have, like when my car is down like this, I like to go racing with Rodney to help him out. But my guy that comes with me, sometimes he doesn't make it all the time when we go. So when Rodney's racing, I want to go with him and help him. But then between rounds, Rodney has his main guy that helps him when he races, and my main guy with me, sometimes he ain't there, but that's when I'm racing, and Rodney has his guy when he's racing. I want to help Rodney when he's racing, but the between round stuff, I step back and let him and his helper Tanner do their thing, because they each have their thing they do, and I don't want to be the third wheel coming in and disrupting their routine. Yeah. And then when you step away and I'm racing my car, you don't have that misstep that somebody didn't do. They're doing the same thing over and over, but I'll help out with whatever, but I don't want to disrupt that routine they have between rounds by being a third wheel, you know, in the way.
Right. How hard is it to assimilate into a team that's been working together? And I don't care if it's drag racing, you know, it could be your 9 to 5, right? As the new guy, it's hard to assimilate into an established team. And that's where good communication comes in, right?
Yeah.
Like, you really want to be able to communicate with people and go, okay, I'm a little nervous here. I'm not sure how and where I fit in. I'd like to. Where do you need me to start? And where am I going to do essentially the least amount of damage if I screw this up?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What's going to have the least harmful impact?
Yeah. You don't want to be the guy that they thought you was going to do X, but then you didn't, and then that gets missed. And what I thought you was going to do, you know, you don't want to be that guy that makes somebody miss a step in their routine.
Right. And that's kind of, even as far as changing the plugs on the Malibu, right? I do the driver's side. Randy does the passenger side. I don't go over to the passenger side until he tells me he's done. And then I go over there and I check and I make sure that all the plug boots are on. And he comes over to my side and he makes sure that all the boots are on and everything is where it should be, right? There's some redundancy, in the checks. You check and then you recheck and then you check again. And that way you don't miss anything. But
right.
Like when we raced at Bud's Creek on their Friday night program, and Jason Miller didn't care if there was an oil down and it took 20 minutes to clean up, and you were back to your pit at 10 minutes to 8 and the next round started at 8, you better have your ass up there.
Yeah. You better be ready.
Right. Randy had
Wow.
a SBX Mustang. He had a hatch Mustang, like a 91, had a Fulton SBX in it. And we had to get a third guy to come help, do fuel, do tires, do the bottles, because I was doing all the plugs and he was downloading all the data, and everything else like that. So once you get into crunch time, like we would at Bud's Creek, depending on, how fast Jason was running those rounds. And Jason's pretty much a stickler for a time, and he would run it on the hour, regardless of, again, whatever transpired out on the track. He was next. If you were there at 8 o'clock getting ready to run, round one, round two's at 9, whether you were there or not, round two is going to happen.
Right.
So,
wow.
and I love those Friday night programs because that gives you all day Saturday and Sunday to go do other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a good opportunity, but it was also a good opportunity to, have teamwork and promote, quick rounds of racing and give the fans a really good, tight show, and they could all be, heading out by midnight.
Right.
Yep. Yep.
Very, very cool.
A little bit of tech side here I saw was pretty interesting looking at some of your pictures. This might be from World Series or Pro Mod. There's some Pro Charger impeller tech going on here. An inducer,
All right,
exducer tech.
Yeah, so that right there, let me see if I can look at that a little bit closer. That's going to be your F4X 140-1. It's probably, I can't make the screen any bigger to look at what's embossed on the
That
the
is what it
tool.
says. Yeah, that
Right.
The Go side on the front ring says F4X-140-1 inducer Pro Mod.
Yep. So that is the inducer and exducer check on a Pro Mod blower or an RVW blower. We make them remove the outer case so we can get in there and utilize those rings to make sure that the inducer and exducer meet the size specification that the Pro Charger is manufactured with.
Do you ever find these out of spec too big?
So
I mean,
on the import side of the world, if we do a post-run check on some of the turbochargers, the heat will have them expanded to the point where they may grow a little bit.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes the tools are not going on as they should. So what we will do is we will do a pre-check on them when they were cold, and then we will use cable ties to basically, that are serialized, that will basically lock that turbo in place, and let people know that, in order for this, to be changed out, you're going to have to come get us, when you put a new one on, because we'll have it broken down, both the hot and the cold side broken down. We'll do an inducer, exducer, and then the same thing on the hot side, an inducer and exducer measurement there. And then we'll seal them up, or we'll mark them in some fashion, to keep things legit. And then we'll do post-run checks to make sure that our marks are still there, or that the serialized cables are still in place.
Oh, that's awesome. And I seen, now this is the screw blower side. Is this checking like overdrive allowance?
Yeah. So most of the blower requirements in most Pro Mod organization are 92%. And what this tool does is, and we always start at top dead center. You don't have to, but we always stop. We always start at top dead center, and you bring the motor around twice. When you start the process, the red arrow that's tied into the adapter there will be at 0. And when you roll it around twice and bring it back to top dead center, it should stop at 92%.
Huh.
Very
And
true.
so a gentleman, I think it was Jeff Holloway. He does tech at PDRA now. I believe he's the one that developed this. And Todd Tutterow is actually the gentleman that handed this to us and said, here, this should make your life a little simpler. Because there's nothing worse than $50,000 being on the line and you and your techs have flashlights and silver Sharpies and you are literally marking, every 10 teeth on the bottom pulley, and it's dark and people are tired and they want to go home. And then there's some jackass on the crew that's over there going 42, 27, 69, 84, as you're trying to count 70 some odd teeth or whatever it is, on the bottom pulley.
Wow.
Yeah. Jared Johnston says John Sears tech is legit. Sometimes it's his hide and go seek with a Texas Roadhouse gift card to pass. Yeah.
No, we're looking for diesel cards because diesel's going up in price again. And Roadhouse, Texas Roadhouse is kind of slipping a little bit. So Ruth Chris or St. Elmo's at PRI.
There you go, Jared. Take a note.
Maybe a Bucky's card.
Bucky's, there you go. That's where you get your diesel.
Right?
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I thought this that's another picture of operating that screw jack. Oh, these pictures are really cool.
Yeah, that's the other thing is we try to document what we do down there pretty closely, right? Because what happens is word of mouth from racers is, that didn't get checked, or you didn't check so and so, or this didn't get done, or that didn't get done, or how come you guys didn't do this? I always kid. There's a couple of guys when we were doing some 632 tech, Pro 632 or Outlaw 632, however you want to look at it. They have a 36 jet requirement, right? Like they got to be 36 in all 8 holes. And, I had a couple guys come up. They go, man, you've never checked the jets in my car. How come? I'm like, you're not fast enough. I said, when you get there, right? Well, because they're coming up, because you could tell body language and energy, right? They're like kind of miffed that, they haven't been checked or whatever. And so, just jokingly, you've got to kind of, set the tone and go, you're just not fast enough yet, dude. We'll get to you one day. One day. You look, we didn't think you were, were running a 36 jet in that car as slow as you're going, That's rough, isn't it?
Man, truth hurts, right?
Right. I mean, like, so, we talked about, keeping track of this stuff. And we performed 103 separate fuel checks at World Series of Pro Mod.
Wow.
Right. We check your fuel twice. You're like, man, they're not checking it a third time. Let's do a little something here. Well, shit, man, they're checking it again.
Oh man.
So that sort of sets a tone, right? You go out there and you I'm not going to say lull them into a false sense of security because anybody's doing anything wrong, but I just want to, make sure that everything is transparent and stays above board. So multiple times, we would, they always have to go across and go across the scales, right? You're always checking weight. Weight's not something that you check one round and you don't check the next. Of course, you're going to check that stuff every round. So, we're checking, blower overdrives multiple times throughout the weekend. We're checking fuel multiple times throughout the weekend. We're checking centrifugal blower inlets multiple times throughout the weekend. And then, Saturday morning when everything's cooled off and, they can get the outer part of the volute and everything off of the Pro Charger. We'll go down there when they're cold and we'll do the inducer and exducer measurements. Halsey's putting in a new rack of pistons and rods in his nitrous motor. Well, that was an opportunity for us to go down there and do a quick bore and stroke on that thing when he already had the cylinder head. and everything else like that, right? Because in between rounds, you know, and those 959s, you know, are notorious for, you know, sort of almost being egg-shaped, where north to south bore measurement is a little different than the east to west bore measurement, just because the way they load and everything else like that. So, you know, you split the difference between the two to get your actual bore measurement and stuff like that. And that's something that Lonnie Grimm showed me when we were doing some stuff like that. He goes, you got to pay attention here. And, you know, I've been blessed to, you know, have worked with some really great people that are extremely intelligent and have been around the game for a long time. And hopefully I've been able to impart and pass some knowledge on to some of the people that I've worked with. You know, that's one of the blessings, I guess, is taking something that you've learned and sharing that knowledge with other people.
Jared Johnston says fuel cards with a St. Elmo tab done. I'll be at No Mercy at 2,700. I'm guessing that's a weight, 2,700 pounds.
He can be whatever he wants to be. It just won't pass it when we get to the scale.
And Jennifer Baker Briggs says, I'll take Victoria's Secrets gift cards.
Oh, my.
Oh, my. Hey, I listen to Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s podcast a lot. And oftentimes he'll have like crew chiefs from the past, like like from the past, like in the 60s, 70s, 80s, or whatever. He'll have drivers from the past, like Darrell Waltrip was a great episode he had, and they got talking about, you know, trying to what pretty much what Dale asks them is, what kind of stuff did you try to cheat to do? And some of the answers of these guys was like, you want to give something obvious to catch so that they don't look for the three other things that are sliding. Right. So do you ever experience any of that?
So I think there have been times where that may have been the case, right? Like you think about it, right? You're like, man, that guy's running really good. And we've checked, you know, we've checked fuel, we've checked the blower drive size, you know, we've made sure the tire size is what it's supposed to be. His weight is on point. We've downloaded his data at the scale to make sure that he's not running, you know, a lockup converter in the car, you know, and all those things right there. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's infallible. They're like, hey, you know, you think anybody's cheating? And I always tell them, every one of you son bitches is cheating.
That's right.
Every one of you is cheating. You just ain't been caught yet.
Right. And
they're like, damn, man, no trust. And I'm like, I'm a tech guy. I have trust issues, you know? So again, and I'm not pointing any fingers at anybody or anything like that. But again, those are those things that, you know, if you always want to think that people are going to do the right thing, right? But you always have to have it in the back of your mind that not everybody is honest and not everybody is above board and not everybody is willing to be transparent. There have been times where I've requested to do bore and stroke on somebody or what have you, because they claimed a certain cubic inch, and you know, maybe the cubic inch was not what it was, you know, teched in as, right? So you go down there and you're like, hey, we're gonna, you know, do a bore and stroke, and you know, well, you know, my sister-in-law's dog, you know, had puppies, so we're loading up and we're going home.
Oh no.
You know, and yeah, and maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe something happened to the car, what have you, you know? So I don't want to think, but don't think the next race that you come to that I'm not going to bring out, you know, the P&G tool and find you, you know, and find the opportunity to do that again.
Not mentioning any names, what's the biggest, craziest infraction you've found? If you don't want to say, that's fine.
Yeah, I'd rather not. I can go into something that happened in the no time world that some people will find kind of funny, and I've told this story once before. There was a stock frame rail rule for the front of the car, right? But the way it was worded, it said stock front frame rails must be in car. Well, this guy was tubed throughout, but on the passenger side of the car, on the interior, ratchet strapped to the chassis was 2 front frame rails out of a light car. So,
Of course.
and in the rule book, it said front frame rails must be in car. Well, they were front frame rails and they were in the car. He goes, I'm just trying to adhere to the rules. So again, you have to go back and you have to rewrite a rule. You have to be, you have to go, installed in the factory location, that kind of thing, right? So you learn your lesson after getting your ass kicked by a couple of smart asses or people that don't read things the way you do, right? They don't see things the way you do. They see things completely differently. I'm not saying they're right. I'm not saying they're wrong. They just see it differently. So being open to essentially being humbled and not, digging, you know what, dude, man, I love the way you think. I didn't look at it that way. I'll go back and I'll rewrite this rule to be more specific. And next race, you're either going to race with stock front frame rails in the stock location, or we'll be bumping you up a class or what have you.
Yeah. And the way I look at it, you instead of reading the rules for what the rules say, sometimes you got to read the rules for what they don't say.
Right. And the best thing I can tell anybody is if they ever have any questions about the rules or how the rules are written, spirit of the rules, intent of the rule, everything else like that, right? Because like promoters, track owners, tech guys, we all like to fall back on that one final line where, we basically say we can adjust the rules at any time for parity. And then also the intent and spirit of the rules must be maintained during the race and the tech process. So that's sort of a catch-all for that kind of thing. Oh, you want to be a smart ass? I can be a smart ass too. Here, you're not racing this week, or you gotta bump up a class or what have you. Just because you thought it was this way. Who did you talk to before you came to the event? Did you talk to anybody? Did you get some clarity on this thing? If the answer is no, well, I'm not going to be able to help you at that point.
Here, carry this lead.
Right. There's a lot of things that go on like that, but I try to deal with people as fairly as I possibly can. I try to treat them as professionally as I possibly can. I will match your energy. If you come to tech and you have a very bad attitude, I will ask you, to take it down a notch and to treat me with respect and courtesy. And I'll do the same. If you want to get into a pissing match, not in the middle of me scaling other cars or anything like that, because it's not going to happen, right? I have a job to do there. I'm being paid to work tech. If you have a problem, let's sort it out. Let's work through it together, and try to come up with a solution to the problem. But if you're going to come down and you're going to try to bite my head off and attack me, that's fine too. You're going to find yourself on the wrong end of whatever transaction that you want to partake in.
Yeah. Jennifer Baker Briggs says maybe the material is not what it seems.
Yeah, because she's a cheater. You guys remember Hot Street back in the day? NMCA Hot Street? Yeah, Jennifer's a cheater. That's why cheaters make good tech people.
Right. You know what to look for. That's great.
You can ask her about her faux aluminum intake that was actually magnesium, and actually had the Chevy bow ties on the runners and everything else like that.
Dang, creative.
Yeah, I thought it was very creative.
Oh man. Rodney, what are you doing over there? You got
Ready to kill this deal.
I got one more question.
Oh boy.
And no, this is easy. So you work for World Series of Pro Mod,
Right.
RTRA.
Yep.
Do you also do stuff for NHRA?
So I'm a NHRA Silver Tech, and I have helped with Pro Stock at the Pro event, but I've never worked an NHRA event.
Okay, got it. So of those big organizations, or the NHRA, like you just said with that the Pro event, of those big groups like that, what's your favorite group to tech in?
I have to be honest, man. I really love working World Cup because of the diversity of everything that comes through, because there's so many crossover classes that cross over into different things that Jason Miller and his group have come up with. So I get to see a little bit of everything over there, and the weather can be very cold sometimes, but oftentimes it's just very nice and mild, and you're actually enjoying yourself, and you're not getting the shit beat out of you by the sun and the heat
Right.
and humidity. So
Yeah.
I would have to say that's probably my favorite. As far as the racing and the hype and everything, it's, man, the early radial stuff that we were part of, and radio racing in general is, still near and dear to my heart. I would have to say that Lights Out 7 and the World Series of Pro Mod events are probably my favorites. I think those are my favorite, like, memories of racing. So I don't know. I think, and as far as a racer, back in the day, doing the stuff at Orlando, just to be on that same track that I was, virtually a spectator at, a couple of years prior to that, was always a cool thing. So it's just, I don't know, man. I just feel lucky, and I feel blessed to be able to do what I do. I do 2 of my own events every year at Shadyside Dragway in North Carolina with the Buff family, and I do it for the little guys. I do it for the average Joes. We have Limited Street there as part of the point series, and we have several other classes there, along with some bracket stuff and some index stuff. And we're going to do that towards the end of September. At Shadyside, we always do March and September there, because we've learned our lesson. Trying to do some stuff in July there just doesn't work. So we do that. Carolina Nitrous Nationals is the little deal we do there.
Very cool, man. 2.5 hours tonight. You got anything?
I'm long-winded. I apologize,
man. The information you have is so awesome. It's such good stuff.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys having me on, Gary, Rod. It's just been an absolute pleasure.
You're way busier than. Go ahead, Rod.
I just say I enjoyed it. Love the stories. Love the
man.
communication stuff. Appreciate your time, and we know you're busy, and learned a lot about you. So
yeah, you're way busier than we are. So we really appreciate your time. You're a big hitter in this drag racing world that we all love. So super thanks for you and your time last week and this week. So
no problem. I'm glad the audio and the visual was much improved this week.
Oh, it was perfect. Yeah.
Thanks for the minutes, everybody.
Yes. The minutes. Jared Johnson says thank you guys, and thank you, John.
Anytime. My pleasure.
Yep. He'll see you soon, won't he?
Yeah.
Absolutely. He sure will.
In Florida there, I know we got a storm coming.
Yeah. Yep. Hopefully it stays quiet. If it stops raining tomorrow, maybe I can get the ride height set on the Camaro before I have to hit the road back to Virginia.
There you go.
Well, good luck. Good luck.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Man, Mr.
Thank
Sears, thank you so much again for your time.
Anytime. Thank
Hey,
you.
got anything else you wanna shout about down the road, man? Just give us a holler and we'll make time for you.
Absolutely. I'd love to be back.
Man, we'll have you.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, John.
All right. Have a good night.
Bye, you too.
Bye.
Holy cow, he was awesome. Man.
Nice. Learned a lot. Yeah.
Man, that was so cool.
Yeah, very
Oh,
good. Very
man. Yep. Good info, good stories, man. That was fun. Gee whiz. He is a big star in our racing world.
Yeah, just
A giant part of it too. As
all
the
started
job
in
that he
2008, that's how
at a Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
Pizza Hut that that's how that stuff goes.
It is.
Just here's an idea, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. They made adjustments along the way, where it started and where it is now. And, it's interesting how he, how things have come along with the technology and track prep. And, and he doesn't want to go into the threes. That's just interesting.
Yeah, that's that'll be interesting to watch and see where that class goes because it's getting closer and closer, right?
Oh, yeah.
Man. And the guys that race that, they're not going to stop trying.
Sure.
So they got to go faster to beat the other guy. And that's what fuels all this stupid stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, Mike Peters says, great show, guys. Jimmy Harris, awesome show again, guys. Thanks, Jimmy. Thanks, Mike. Mike Peters says, told you there would be no dead air time with him. You're right.
Ooh.
Oh.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll plug our subscribe.
Let me roll up here. Yeah, we gained like 10 YouTube subscribers this past week. That was a really good jump.
Yeah, that's good. People know you're going to an LS. That's probably.
Well, come on. I think they feel sorry for me. Let's watch this pathetic loser put an LS in his car. Here's our YouTube channel, Heads Up Racing, Gary and Hot Rod Podcast. And the little arrow points to the little subscribe tab on the lower right-hand corner. Hit that subscribe button and do some subscribing, please. I need to update this. This is 208. We're at like 232-ish or so.
Nice.
But yeah.
All right. Cool.
Man, John was awesome, dude. Holy cow.
Yeah. Good.
And
glad to see it will come back and the Wi-Fi worked out. Great story.
Solid service. It was great. Yeah.
Definitely. Have to watch this back tomorrow.
Yes, sir. Right on. I'm ready to call it today. It's been a long weekend.
4 o'clock come early for you.
It will. All right.
All right, bud.
And Rod, thanks for your time. It was fun.
Oh, yeah.
You ready?
Yep. Nice.
Wow. Thanks, brother.
Yes, sir. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right. We'll shut her down. Everybody, thank you. The 11 of you that are left. Thanks. And we'll see you next week. See you, Rod. Good night.